So Sammy, the only one here? Peggy's here. Who? Peggy? Oh, well, yeah, I saw Peggy. Yeah, right.
Check, check. All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm happy that you made your time to come and hear the presentation tonight. I'm Richard Grill. I'm the new interim superintendent for the school district. I'd like to start out just telling you a little bit about myself and introductions of where I've been and what I've been doing. So I just retired 20 months ago as the superintendent up in Sabinal, just right up the road here in Uvalde County. Served their school district for 16 years. I'm the second longest serving superintendent in Sabinal's history, so really proud of that. It's something you don't see much anymore. Superintendents that stay in one place for a long time, they leave or things happen and they're asked to leave, whatever. So a little bit about myself. I feel fairly old. I'm glad I don't look as old as I feel sometimes, but I started my career as a teacher in 1983. I was a high school CTE teacher up in Burnett. It was a consolidated school district. After about 7 years of teaching, I decided I'd go back to school and get my master's degree. I was majoring in my teaching field, and my principal asked me when I came home that summer, and he said, you know, why are you majoring in your teaching field? And I said, well, I thought that's what good teachers did. And he said, well, you really need to pursue your mid-management, which is what we call the principalship now. And this very true story, I said, I don't ever want to be a principal. And I ended up getting into administration for 31 years. So you never know where God's going to lead you until that time comes. I went on to East Austin and worked in East Austin Middle School as an assistant principal. Decided to come back to Burnett County. My wife was the business manager of the Burnett schools, and I became an elementary assistant principal of a campus that was almost 1,000 students, so a huge, huge campus. Beautiful community up there in Marble Falls. Worked myself into a principal's position, moved on to Bandera. My wife became the CFO in Bandera. I became a principal at an elementary school down by Medina Lake. It was a fairly new campus. It was where all the lake trash supposedly went to. The expectation for this campus to be successful was extremely small. We have what's called a self-fulfilling prophecy in education, and what that basically means is you're made to believe who you're made to believe. So if you're told you're not going to be successful and you believe that, then you're not going to be successful. Well, I turned that school into a recognized campus in the very first year and through 3 consecutive exemplary ratings. So that's equivalent now to an A rating school. So I've had that opportunity to lead campuses to a high level academically. That led to my promotion to an assistant superintendent in Bandera, where I oversaw curriculum, school operations, so facilities. That was a really good opportunity for me to stretch my boundaries, learn a lot of things about running a district, and especially about new construction, much like you've had here. So I waited until my son and daughter graduated from high school to pursue my first superintendency, and it ended up being my last superintendency there in Sabinal. So I was there from 2008 through September 1st, 2024. And I was really enjoying retirement. I got a phone call and from Region 20, our executive director there, Dr. Jeff Gohorn, asked me if I would consider coming to Crystal City and helping the school district out, because I've had a strong background in school finance as well. So a little bit about myself. I've already mentioned about my schools and what we've done. But while I was in Sabinal, back in 2015 through 2019, we were going through our financial troubles there because of homestead exemption funding that was going away. Not something that we had done wrong, but the state was changing, the legislature was changing on how they fund schools. And so I ended up being a fairly well-known person at the Capitol. So this is a picture of me testifying at the state Capitol, and you can see the caption there at the bottom here. I'm speaking to the State Appropriations Committee and also the Education Committee. So I'm comfortable fighting battles for school finance. I led our school district in Sabinal from possible closure and consolidation to doing a lot of great things. And we did a lot of school facility work. We passed a bond by 72% margin. We raised our tax rate, our M&O tax rate, 22 cents, which is huge. That's, if you think about your tax rate going up 22 cents. All right, so that's how much the community decided they wanted to support the school to keep it from closing and consolidating. So I have personal experience in dealing with not everything that y'all have going on here, but a lot that's going on. And so I hope that you'll embrace the opportunity that I'm here. I've left my wife, my grown children, and 6 grandchildren all up in Bandera to live down here during the week, and then I go home to see them on weekends. And I'll tell you personally, it's really hard. I'm just in my 11th day of being here, and it's difficult to be away from my wife and family, but 120 miles one way is too far for me to commute. I'm 65, my eyes don't see well when it's dark, and so I've made some personal sacrifices just to come here, and I hope that you can appreciate that I'm not here for any other reason. I'm not here to shine up my resume. I'm not here to look for the next job. I plan to go back to retirement, okay? I simply got a call, and I'm a Christian, and I believe in God, and I believe that God asked me to come here to help you all. So I hope that you'll embrace that. Now, the message I have tonight is fairly blunt, and it's difficult. But what I will tell you is what's happened has happened. We can't change any of that. We can point fingers and we can blame others for why it happened, and that's y'all's prerogative. My point to you tonight is I'm going to show you what's happened, a little bit about why it happened, and you're probably going to leave here not happy. So I ask you not to kill the messenger here, because I wasn't part of the reason, but I'm here to be part of the solution. And so we'll move forward with that. All right, so let's look at this, and I apologize to this side of the room. We're trying to video stream this live, so those people who couldn't come to the meeting tonight could watch on YouTube Live. And I hope those individuals, it's going to be probably a little difficult for them to see the screen, so I know some of y'all are recording, and obviously you can share that as well. So I'm going to go back to what I call the last good year of finances for your school district, and that was in 2021. And this is a real basic spreadsheet. The spreadsheets that we work with, and we're a governmental entity, and they're very complex and they're very hard to explain to lay persons. And so I have always had the capability of trying to reduce that information into what you need to know. And so basically, how much is your revenue? How much are your expenses? That's pretty basic. What is the difference? And so in 2021 school year, you had a surplus budget of $1.2 million, and you had a fund balance here of $10.6 million. All right, the next year, things started sliding a little bit. Your battery's dead. All right, I'll try to talk loud, put my teacher voice on, okay? So bear with me in the back. So the district adopted a deficit budget in this year of $327,000. I will tell you that over 50% of the districts in Texas are adopting deficit budgets. There was a gentleman talking to me about the politics and what's going on. I will tell you honestly, Are we good? Good? Can y'all hear me in the back? Okay. All right, so I've never met a mic I didn't like to talk to, but I prefer wireless, so bear with me. So I will tell you, I'm a little bit of a conspiracy theorist. There is
There's almost an on. Go ahead.
I'm too old for that kind of noise. That about scared me. Whew.
Go ahead.
Wow. I'm going to have to take a breath on that. Okay, so I am of belief that our state and federal leaders in our state and country are trying to privatize education. And by privatizing education, they can't do away with public education because there'd be too much of an outcry. Western democracy is founded on a premise of free and public education. But what they want is to turn education into a consumer-based product where moms and dads pay for their kids' education. And in return, you don't pay taxes. Now, have you heard your governor talk about doing away with property taxes? And they don't, the little secret is they're not talking about doing away with all your property taxes, they're only talking about doing away with your school taxes. So when you get your property taxes, 50%, maybe a little bit more of your taxes that you pay go to Crystal City here, okay? And the rest goes to your hospital district and your roads department and your county, and if you have municipal taxes and so on and so on. So how do you do away with public education? You slowly bleed them out financially, okay? Now, that's just Richard's philosophy. You can take that with a quarter and go buy a cup of coffee, maybe. All right, so with that, schools across the state are adopting small deficit budgets, and this is small, $327,000. Now, the next year, things go further south. Now it's a $2.1 million deficit. Things should have been pumped hard on the brakes that year. Things should have stopped right there, and decisions should have been made then because you still had $6.9 million in fund balance. And I forget I have these little arrows. So with that said, the next year you adopt another huge deficit budget. $9.6 million. Now you don't have a fund balance, you have a negative fund balance. So think of spending every penny you've got in savings and still having a huge need, and you're not pulling back. You're buying steak at HEB, you're going to whatever. You're spending money like you're printing it in the back. This is a horrible mistake. So let me go back to the previous slide. This is when things should have stopped, right here. This was in 22-23. Now, there was a lot of federal aid coming into schools because of COVID after 2020. And so there might have been this misconception that, oh, we're going to continue getting welfare checks from the feds, all right? That COVID money, we called it ESSER in the education world. Again, 23-24, 2 school years ago, what the heck's going on? Now, I'm asking that to myself. I don't understand. Why is Richard Grill standing here tonight telling you this? Okay? But it happened. We can't change it now. Y'all can be mad. I don't blame you for being mad. Just don't be mad at me. But my point to you is, it didn't stop. The craziness didn't stop still. Then last year in 24-25, y'all adopted another $2.6 million deficit budget. That's 3 consecutive multi-million-dollar deficit budgets. And you're just going deeper and deeper in the hole. You have a negative fund balance. Now, my wife spent 36 years as a school chief financial officer, ended her career as assistant superintendent in Bernie ISD. Anybody familiar with the community of Bernie? Ultra wealthy, best of everything. But even they have to be frugal, okay? But between her and I, we have a lot of pillow talk about school stuff. You can imagine being a superintendent and a school CFO in different districts. Neither one of us have ever heard or seen anything quite like this before. I mean, there's a few places that have had some rough times, but it's hard to fathom what's going on. So we move into the winter of 24-25 school year, and the board adopts a financial exigency plan. So what I will tell you is what I've told the board, what I've told boards of the past and communities of the past I work with. Don't believe me because I say so. Believe me because I can show you so. Here's the financial exigency plan, dated December 6, 2024. It wasn't followed through. Our phones sound like. Okay, so now our deficit budget this year, they adopted another deficit budget, but at least it wasn't millions of dollars, but your fund balance is a negative $2.7 million. How do you have a negative savings account? Can you imagine having a negative? I can't imagine having a negative savings account, but the school district does. Okay, so all these documents I've got laid out here on this table here, I can hold them up and show you. So the district hired a consultant. His name was Jeff Solomon, and this was in the fall of 2024, so year before last now. And he was giving the school district a lot of information about what's wrong, what you should be doing, what the school used that they shouldn't have used. For whatever reason, he was dismissed. Next consultant, Andrew Kim, comes into the picture. I actually know Andrew very well. He's a very sharp person, much smarter than me on school finance, and he was here. And he was providing documents saying, you're doing this wrong, you're doing this wrong, you're doing this wrong. He was dismissed. District had a financial advising company, Estrada and Hinojosa. They wrote a letter of resignation saying, we can't work for you guys. Now, I'm not here to point fingers. I'm just telling you, this is real stuff, and I've been here 11 days digging into this stuff. And it defies my understanding on why there were opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to stop. I can only tell you that as superintendent, so you're interim superintendent right now, I'm the tip of the spear. Everything that goes wrong is my fault, and everything that goes right, well, I get a little credit for it whether I deserve it or not, okay? That's the life of being a superintendent. All right, financial exigency, I've already showed you the document. It wasn't fully implemented. And what the financial exigency is about filing bankruptcy for a school district. That's a layman's term. It's not quite like a business filing bankruptcy, but it allows you to do things that you can't normally do. And so the Commissioner of Education has to sign off on it. And what it basically allows schools to do is to break Texas Education Code, Chapter 21. So that's the Education Code is the school law. Chapter 21 is about personnel matters. So administrators, superintendents, we all have what's called a Chapter 21 contract. And what this allows you to do is break those contracts. It's like the governor declaring a state of emergency when a hurricane hits our Gulf Coast. It allows him to access monies without the legislature approving it, okay? So this is what the commissioner can do, is it allows us to do things that we normally can't do to fix problems. The next item, probably the worst of the worst, in my opinion, of documents, is every governmental entity in Texas, okay? So that's your commissioner, court, and the county, all your taxing entities have to have an independent auditor. That's a pretty big document. That's just 1 year. Every year you have to have one of these. The auditor told the board and the superintendent for 4 straight years of all the problems going on. And this one's dated 2 months ago, February of 26, and it cites 3 law violations where we broke the law here, okay? So it's bad. Can't change it though. So with that, what the 3 violations were was 1, we spent INS money. So INS stands for interest and sinking. This is voter approved money for the bond that y'all passed to build the schools and remodel and this auditorium mess that y'all have, okay? It's voter approved to spend only on the construction that the voters approved. It's not intended to pay your day-to-day bills, but that's what we did. We not being me, okay? They created negative balances on their budget line items, and they had a lot of budget variances. And that's technical talk. Bottom line is they weren't spending the money that it was approved to be spent, and they were overspending in every single budget. Every single budget. How do you do that? How do you overspend every single budget? All right, so again, let me just explain in layman terms. So you have, it's called functions. So function 11 is instruction. So that's everything we do in your kids' classrooms. And then you have function 13, which is your counselors. You have function 21, and that's your principals. And you have function 36, and that's all your extracurriculars, so athletics and band, anything that cheer, all those things. Function 41 is central administration and school board. Function 51 is school maintenance, plant maintenance. 56 is school transportation. They overspent in every single category. Like there was a money tree growing out back. We can't do that. Y'all can't do that at your home. We shouldn't be doing that. Especially it's taxpayer money. All right, so here's some findings. This is pretty coarse stuff. And I apologize to the people who are watching this on YouTube because it's probably really hard to see. So I'll kind of go through this. So we borrowed $1.4 million out of our INS. That's voter-approved money for construction, not for school operations. $1.4 million. That's not criminal, but it ought to be. Okay? Y'all approved as voters for the school to spend money to build the buildings that were approved in that bond election, and they were spending it on day-to-day expenses. They didn't have voter approval for that. Is there a question?
Who approved the spending of that money?
Well, ultimately, your superintendent.
Was the school board involved in that?
Well, the school board has fiduciary oversight, yeah. But day-to-day operations is one person, and that's the superintendent. Day-to-day operations. School board has governance. They adopt your tax rate. They adopt your budget. They create policy. They evaluate, hire, and fire the superintendent. Those are the functions that are under the school board.
So the school board knew for 4 years that we were over and under, and they still kept going. Wow.
Did the school board have that information, or is the superintendent supposed to give them that information, and did she?
Okay. I appreciate all the questions. If y'all can maybe hold the questions and let me go through the presentation, I might answer some of your questions, but to answer y'all's 2 questions, good questions. The superintendent is responsible, and he or she, the superintendent, staff, are supposed to inform the school board, okay? So yes, the information is shared with the board. Now, how well did they share? How well was it interpreted? I can't answer that question. Okay, I can tell you from where I've been and what I've done, we gave updates. Now, again, you expect board members to ask questions when they don't understand, okay? But I'm not here to criticize these board members. I wasn't there, so I can't say. And I'm not going to make assumptions. I can tell you if it happened in Sabinow, how it was handled. Okay, because I can tell you truthfully what happened there. But yes, it should be and must be shared. The audits had to be shared. The audits had to be board approved at the end. So yes, there is that plausibleness of information. All right. They borrowed $1.37 million for workers' comp. That's insurance money. Okay? They depleted $3.2 million so Lone Star is a investment tool that schools use to invest money. It's just a safe place for us to invest money and get some interest off the money we invest. So you usually put your fund balance in those accounts, okay? So they pull money out of investments. Now, your school CFO, and generally it's the superintendent, but not always the superintendent, have to every 2 years go through investment officer training. So I've been trained multiple times through my 16 years as a superintendent. And this stuff's really complex, y'all. So I'm not going to say that every superintendent completely understands all this, but that's their responsibility. At the end of the day, they are the superintendent. But your school CFO or your business manager, whatever you call it in your school district, is really the person accountable there, okay? That's why you have those people. But it appears to me in all the documentation that I've gone through that y'all had a really good CFO, he retired, and then we've had people who didn't really know what they were doing, okay? And now we have Mr. Velasquez back in the picture as a retiree hire like me helping out. And so he understands what's going on, but the water's under the bridge already. So we can't fix that. All right, we grossly overestimated enrollment and attendance by $4.2 million. So this is what happens. You report to the state, it's the last Friday in October, we call it PEAM Snapshot Day, and you report a lot of different variables and information to the Texas Education Agency. And they don't know how many kids you have in your school. But then you do another submission in June, and they compare the two numbers, and what happens is they overpaid the district based on a really high enrollment number, and it was a lot lower. And so the next school year, they shorted the district for $4.2 million. So the schools got the money in 1 year. Oh, yay, we spend it. And then the next year, it's already spent. Well, we got to pay it back. We don't have no money. There's where these big dips in your deficit budgets came from, these multi-million-dollar hits. They grossly overestimated federal funds by $5.3 million. They thought they were going to get $5.3 million. They didn't get $5.3 million. They spent $5.3 million, but they didn't have $5.3 million. Are y'all following along? Yes. Show me some heads, okay.
Yes, we are.
This isn't one thing or two things. It's a whole lot of things that have happened. So we're going to have to make tough decisions because of all of this. And I hope when I get to that segment of this presentation, y'all won't be throwing tomatoes at me, or worse, okay? So, the last bullet here, to me, is maybe, in my opinion, the worst thing. It appears that the district adopted a higher INS tax rate than what was needed. So let me explain what that means. Remember, INS is your bond indebtedness. It stands for interest and sinking. This is money that the voters approved to do the new construction in the bond election, okay? So you're allowed to fluctuate your tax rate based on your appraised values. So generally speaking, appraised values tend to go up, not down. But I don't know your community well enough to say if the economy is hurt and it's tanked appraised values. I don't know that, so I won't speculate that. But you're only supposed to raise enough money from your annual tax rate for 1 year to pay your payments. Think of it as a mortgage payment, okay? Your INS is your mortgage payment. You're only supposed to raise enough to pay for your mortgage payment for that year. You're not supposed to raise more than that because that's illegal. But it appears that This is just me speculating, and I don't like to speculate and generally don't speculate, but it looks fairly obvious to me that there might have been some malintent. Well, we're broke, so let's raise some money over here, because we can't raise the M&O tax rate. There's too many laws that govern that now. It used to be a lot easier when I was in Savannah back in 2015, 16, 17, and 18 when we were doing it. But the laws have changed where, you know, the governor, lieutenant governor, and all of them have really cranked down on how schools can generate additional funds. But there aren't any guardrails on the INS. And pleading ignorance isn't an excuse. Would y'all agree?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, just this past week, on Monday, it's my very first board meeting, and so, you know, I'm doing my superintendent's report, and we stream those board meetings on YouTube. Kind of cool. I've never been streamed before. My wife was saying, you know, Richard, get that camera in a different direction. That glare off your bald head looks awful. Suck in your belly. She's probably telling me that now at home. Oh dear. So anyway, she probably is really watching, I'm being honest. So anyhow, we're 104 students less today than we were 12 months ago. And this is just kind of a standing report. So easy math, just real simple math. If you want to punch it in your phone in your calculator, get your phone out and do this. 104 times 7,000. So we get approximately $7,000 per student from the state. That's $728,000. So just round it off to $750,000 we've lost because of enrollment drop. I don't know where the kids went. All right, our attendance rate year to date for this school year is 91.49%. It should be at 96%. This should be our goal. So that for every percentage point, for every student that misses a day of school, round figures, just round figures, is $600 a day. So if your child decides to stay home for whatever reason, or you decide to keep your child home for whatever reason, that's $600. So I'll use a real scenario that I'm used to dealing with in Savannah. Okay, and maybe it's applicable here, maybe it's not, but I'm going to use it as an example. Family has several kids in school, and one of them has a doctor's appointment in San Antonio, so mom takes the whole group of kids out of school because she can't get back before school's out. There's no one to watch their kids, right? So that the whole family misses school that day. And that happens, right? But all those kids missing school is $600, $600, $600. So moms and dads, help us out, please. Get your kids to school, keep them in school, and try to avoid missing school. There's so many holidays in the school year. Try to get your doctor appointments and things scheduled in when you can. I know life is life, but let's all play our part to help. All right, we can't pay our bills right now. So the word's out, hey, there's a new guy in town. Let's see if he'll get us paid. I am getting emails every day from some company saying, hey, can you help us out? So I'll give you a couple for instances because people know me. So y'all have a track over here at the high school that's not finished? Y'all aware of that, right?
Yes.
It's not getting finished. It's not going to get finished because they abandoned the project, they being the superintendent, last school year. Well, they owe the company, Hellas, right at $100,000. So I'm actually meeting with a board member here because I interviewed each board member last week into this week, and I see on my phone this person's name that I know from Hellas, because what did we do in Savannah? We put in a new track with Hellas up there too. $1.7 million tract to be exact. And I'm thinking, why is he calling me? Maybe he's just calling me to say, hey, Richard, congratulations on being at Crystal, okay? He's saying, hey, Grill, get us paid. Because, it's not what you know, it's who you know in this world. So Region 20, who we depend on heavily and use heavily for services, we owe them $180,000. The same guy, Dr. Goldhorn, that calls me during my grandchildren's spring break, and we're down at the coast trying to have a good time, and it's cold and it's raining, and we're all cooped up in this room, and my grandkids are about to drive me nuts. And I'm getting a phone call from Dr. Goldhorn. I thought, what he wants. And so I called him, and he says, hey, Richard, your name's really come up on the top of the list. We'd like you to go down to Crystal City and help them out. We think you're a good fit. And the reason they thought I was a good fit is, number one, I have a background in school of finance. I helped Savinow get through a tough time. I've shown you that. I have a background in raising accountability ratings academically. I've shown you that. The community of Savinow is much like this community, nearly all Hispanic. And I'm one of the few white guys in town, right? Oh, we're supposed to laugh. All right. It's not racial. All right. Seriously. So if Richard can integrate in Savinow, certainly he can integrate down here in Crystal, right? He did it once, he can do it again. Now, then he's saying, in another phone call, hey, Richard, just by the way, can you get us paid? Is that why you asked me to go down there and help them so I can get you paid? Not what you know, but who you know, right? All right. But that's true. Honest engine. True story. Now, we owe all these businesses from last school year into now right at $1 million of outstanding payments. I've never seen that before. So we got to repay the INS fund that we took money from. We got to pay all these people. But guess what? We also have to pay
Teaching.
our employees. Yep, our employees. Right now, today, we do not have enough money to get to pay. Right now, today, we can pay them for April. What a horrible thing. And that's not just our teachers, that's everybody. The ladies in the cafeteria, the bus drivers, the maintenance workers, the principals. Me. Okay, so my point is, we're going to have to take out a loan just to get through. But we got to get through August, because our fiscal year is September 1st to August 31st. And the majority of our employees are what we call 10-month employees. Not everybody's on contract, but are at will, so that's our secretaries and instructional aides and bus drivers and ladies in the cafeteria. To an extent, we do summer feeding and so on and so forth. The majority of our employees work 10 months out of the year. So mid-August to the 1st of June. But they get their salary annualized, so they get 12 paychecks. So people are fixing to finish here in about 6 or 7 weeks, but they're still going to get a paycheck in June, July, and August. Y'all have heard about employees' health insurance not getting paid here?
Yes.
Yeah, I actually had heard that before I said I'd be willing to come down here. God really had a plan for me, because I probably would have said no if I'd known everything I know today 3-4 weeks ago. All right? So I hope maybe y'all will accept me and believe in me and support me, because I'm here to do God's work. All right? All right.
I think you're the only person we can believe at this point.
Well, I'll take that as a compliment, thank you. All right, so moving on, data integrity. So we get what's called a basic allotment for every child. And basic allotment, again, it's not $7,000 exactly, but I like to use it just for a round number, okay? But then we get this add-on money for different types of students. And so these are called allotments. And so one of the biggest allotments is called Comp Ed. And there's 11 different indicators of children in our schools to get them labeled as Comp Ed. And they don't know their Comp Ed. Moms and dads don't even know their Comp Ed. It's just our coding. And one of the first criteria is economically disadvantaged. Would you say this community's children come from economically disadvantaged homes for the most part?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. So our data shows that 99.1% of our student body come from economically disadvantaged homes. So why isn't our Comp Ed numbers 99.1%? But they're not. So this is human clerical mistakes that's costing us problems. And this doesn't go to the board. And this sometimes can be missed by the superintendent. I can tell you that it got by me for about half of my 16 years in Sabinow until I got educated on that, and then I became a holy terror on PEIMS. So PEIMS stands for Public Education Information Management System. We have acronyms for everything, all right? So we get an allotment for special ed children. We get an allotment for CTE children. So that's the old vocational programs of old, for those of y'all my age or so. We get for dyslexia, we get it for GT, all these special pop students. We get these add-on dollars. And then it's weighted based on their attendance. So we get what's called WADA, weighted average daily attendance. And that's the real bottom line money that we get. So we have clerical issues due to ignorance going on in this district. And then just one day, I probably circled over 100 mistakes. And that's all I had time to explore in that one piece of data that I was tearing through, okay? So it's not just all these other things, it's all these little minute things that add up to big things. But here's probably number 13. Maybe that was a Freudian slip to make it item number 13. We just don't know how to say no around here. Everybody wants their thing. I've already got a whole bunch of people wanting to schedule meetings with me because of either what they've heard I'm going to do or what they perceive I'm going to do. And I'm going to make time and listen to them. But folks, the word no is going to have to come out of my mouth. Because here's the alternative. This is real, folks. Your school will close and you will consolidate with another school district that's within your boundaries. So you're familiar with Asherton, right? You're familiar with Batesville, right? They've consolidated in the past. I did this in Sabinow too, for a whole different set of scenarios, but I was trying to get the community to vote to raise our M&O tax rate. And so our biggest rivals is Dehennis. And I told the community, if we don't get out of this, we're going to close and consolidate. Y'all going to be the Dehennis Cowboys. And it made a lot of people mad. So I'm going to say it. Apologize in advance. Y'all might become the Carrizo Springs Wildcats if we don't get this thing turned around. Now, it doesn't work exactly like that. You don't get to pick and choose who you consolidate. The board has to petition all the school districts adjacent to the district, and those districts have to consider whether or not they want to take on Crystal City. That's how consolidation works. But I will tell you that there is a genuine, real possibility this is going to happen. And I don't know if I can pull it all off for you guys. But I'm here, and I can assure you that I'm working hand in glove with our 2 conservators that are assigned to us from Texas Education Agency. I'm going to talk about that here in a second. All right, next item is there's just a lack of, there's no sense of urgency. I keep hearing, well, we've heard about it for years, but we didn't think it was that bad. I've heard that a lot over the last 2 weeks I've been here. We've heard about it. I've seen some of it in social media. Well, we all know that there's been problems, but who stepped up and said, we got to stop this madness? Who's come to board meetings saying we need to stop this madness? We need to stop spending. We need to quit doing all the things that we do in schools. Who's done that? Anybody? So it takes all of us now, today, right now, from this moment forward, to say we got to say no to spending. Well, I can't speak to her. I will get better in my open door policy. I've been drinking out of a fire hose the last few days, okay? Just because of the volume of information I'm sifting through and researching and trying to figure out and get a game plan together like a good coach does. Yes, ma'am.
When the district filed for financial exigency, there was a board meeting and the public was told to submit questions that the public had for the superintendent. I submitted questions. I still haven't heard back. This was in December of 2024.
Well, it's a sad fact that it happened. So we're going to be filing for financial exigency next week.
So I know you said no consolidation, but at this point, is that in the best interest so that we can at least stay for elementary and move forward and somehow get junior high and high school back in a few years, but so that we can stay.
I've never heard or seen a district that consolidated and then disbanded and came back to its home community. I've never heard of that. I'm not saying that can't happen, but I've never heard of that. Now, I've worked in a consolidated school district, and I will tell you, it was in Burnett CISD, kind of like Uvalde CISD. And Burnett had 4 outlying communities that they consolidated with. And so I was an ag teacher, okay? And so I'd go out to my students' homes after school to go check on their livestock projects. And so I got to know moms and dads quite well at their homes. It was nice. They'd invite me to stay for dinner and whatnot. But my point is, when I talk to their parents or maybe the grandparents, they say, yeah, I remember when we used to be our own school back in the day, and they resented being Kelly Green and White Bulldogs and Burnett. Okay, so I can't speculate on that. The usual norm in consolidations is the elementary school will stay in the community, and then the secondary students will be bused to the school district, high school or middle school that they're consolidating with. But for them to maybe get back financially where they need to be one day and come back, I've never seen that or heard of that, so I can't say that that would happen. But I don't know. I don't really know that answer. Okay, moving on. Okay, this is a really important piece of information. It's kind of a different approach to the same conversation. So this school district is now in what's called Accreditation Warren. So this was reviewed with the school board at my first board meeting this past Monday. And the board said, we want to put this in the local newspaper because not everybody sees this on our website and things like that. And give them credit where credit's due with the board, that they wanted to make sure that this was transparent. And what this means is you're just 2 steps away from the school taking your accreditation away from you, which means your diplomas mean nothing for your future graduates here. So kids that are sophomores today, so I have a grandson who's a sophomore at Bandera High School. If he was here in 2 years, his diploma would mean nothing, okay? Now, it hasn't happened yet, And there's a possibility it won't happen, but let me explain. Okay, if we don't fix our financial and academic issues, because there's both, we've just been talking finance. We haven't even talked about academics yet, okay? Next year we'll be on probation, and then in 2 years, you would have your accreditation revoked. Okay, so the district is in peril in 2 regards, academically and financially. I've been spending a lot of time on finances. So we currently have an F rating. I can promise you today, mark my words, write it down. Richard Grill said, we will be an F-rated school district next year on our finances. Because of this audit report that came out 2 months ago. So you're already going to be on probation. That's a given. But that's not the coup de grace yet. That's not the death yet. It's the following year. Now, I think I have a 50-50 shot of getting y'all out of this mess. And I say I, we, collectively. I'm just a superintendent. So I take responsibility of trying to lead the charge. I think we can fix the academics piece. It's this finance piece that's the scarier part. And so no matter how good we get academically this time next year, which I feel comfortable saying, you have a 3-year running D rating. Your report card for your district, 3 years in a row has been a D, okay? You have Zavala, that's currently a C, it's been a B and a D in past years. Benito Juarez has been 3 straight years F. That school is under monitoring right now, the junior high, and then the high school rating. So each of the campuses have had a little bit of a stumble. One of them has just been in a really bad position. So if we don't get the academics for the district and for Benito Juarez up to a C next year, you'll go to probation. So finance is already going to get you probation. Now, hopefully, we can get the academic thing up to a C. And I think that there's a good chance of that. Both the district rating and Benito Juarez. 2 years from now, if one or the other or both aren't fixed, you lose your accreditation. Now, what most likely will happen if we don't fix these 2 things next year, the commissioner has authority to come in and remove the school board and appoint what's called a board of managers. And so we already have 2 conservators here, and I'm going to talk about their roles here in a moment. But then you lose all your representation. So the board of managers are people who basically the commissioner handpicks from the area, and then he handpicks the superintendent. And somebody, very nice gentleman, I've lost track where he's sitting, asked me if I would stay. I've already told the board I'm here to help, but I do not plan to be your permanent superintendent. I miss my wife and my family, and I'll cry when I talk about this because I really do miss them. And living out here is okay for a night or 2, but it's already gotten old after 2 weeks, okay? So I hope you'll respect that I came out of retirement to help you guys out and do the right thing. But I'm not seeking long-term employment. I've spent 41 years in the business, and I would like to enjoy my final years on this earth with my wife and family, and while I have some decent health. Yes, sir.
This person I talked to this morning said that consolidation would work. He said the only hope for this district is annexation. Can you explain the difference? Or is annexation a real option? Or or is it just hearsay?
I can't speak to annexation. I've never heard of that, sir. Only consolidation, yes.
Send me a down out research to read a Chinese, because I don't understand either one.
Well, in this business, annexation is not used. So I've never heard that, and I think I've been around the block enough times to say I would have heard that somewhere. So no, sir, I think maybe someone has misinformed you of that.
You said the problem with consolidation, we might use the football team, because they have to return Wildcats.
Well, the kids will play over there. I mean, they'll still play ball, they just won't be playing with the green and gold javelinas.
That's any man can losing the foundation.
I totally get that. I empathize the position y'all are in. And that's why I'm here, because I have experience of leading schools out of financial issues, and I have experience of leading schools to better, higher academic ratings. And that's the calling that I was given. Now, if I pull this off, it's one of the most monumental things that I will have done in my lifetime. But I am not seeking the power, the glory, or anything else about being a superintendent. I've served my years, 41 years, and I'm looking forward to being back in retirement. But I want you to at least appreciate that I've left my wife and family to come down here and help y'all, all right? Because there's no other motivation other than intrinsic reward.
So you're going to be with us until we try and get out of this? Because just by you talking to us, I believe in you, sir.
Well, I appreciate the vote of confidence. The board and I have not talked timelines. And maybe I'll circle back to that after I do my presentation. Maybe I'll address that a little bit here soon. All right, so let's talk about the conservators. There's two conservators, Dr. Sylvia Reyna and Mr. John Hines. Mr. Hines is sitting back here in the back listening. And Dr. Reyna is here at the discretion of the commissioner, and she has the authority to override any board decision now. Okay? She'll be at all the board meetings, and if she thinks the board is not acting in the right manner, she can override their decisions. She can override my decisions too, okay? So there's one thing that the commissioner is trying to do is make sure that the governance side of things stays the governance side of things. Board members shouldn't be coming to school and telling employees what to do. They shouldn't be asking for things. They shouldn't be demanding jobs for family members, friends, or whatever that's been going on. Okay? It's been going on. We have to recognize that. So all that's going to stop with the conservator here. They're also going to ensure that we follow through with the financial exigency plan, because it didn't get followed through the last time in December of 24. So there's going to be somebody riding shotgun on making sure everything that I'm discussing with you is going to get done. Okay? I'm here to do the day-to-day. They come in 1 or 2 days a week. So I basically have cut and pasted their information from their documents here. The thing that they're here is to make sure that we're taking care of students, not adults. Okay? We're here, we exist as a school for the students. Now we're in the people business. Our teachers, our instructional aides, our secretaries, our principals, even the superintendent are part of the school, and we're important too. School doesn't function without us, but we got to start making decisions that are in the best interest of the school and making sure that academic outcomes is put first. Okay? Now, I'm going to, in a little bit, talk about some of these cuts, and it's going to upset some of y'all. But we got to decide, what do you want? Do you want your school to stay here or not? All right, So this is about student outcomes, not compliance. It's about Benito Juarez's F rating and district's overall rating of a D. The targets is to move the F to a C for the campus and D to a C for the district. It's about strengthening our governance, that's the school board. Okay? The financial conditions, and this is not my language, it's from the conservators, but I concur word for what's wrote right here. What has been going on is not sustainable. It shouldn't have gotten to where we are today. And I think most of you, what I've illustrated, would agree. Would you not? Yes? Okay. All right. If things don't go right this year, there's going to be a loss of your school board, and you'll have an appointment of board of managers. Okay, back to my language. We face a lot of tough decisions, both financially and academically. Now, you're going to hear from me a whole lot more about the finances, because if we don't fix the finances, it doesn't matter what our academic rating is. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because if the school's closed, it doesn't matter. Do y'all agree with that?
Yeah.
Finances got to be fixed first. But we can't really just say we're focused on finances, because we're in the kid business. So we are. And so I will expect the principals and their staff to do their job. I will expect them to perform at higher levels. And Mr. Hines, the other conservator, is working hand in glove with the principals on making sure that what they are doing on a day-to-day basis is about putting student achievement first and foremost in all decisions that they make. Otherwise, we look at closure and consolidation. So we have to have courage. All right, next steps. Next Monday night, we already have called the board meeting. It's already posted on our website. We're going to have a special meeting, and we're going to file for financial exigency. All right. It's not quite like bankruptcy, but you can kind of think of it as bankruptcy. It doesn't wipe away all our debt, but it doesn't consolidate our debt. None of that goes away. What it allows us to do is let people go. Break Chapter 21 contracts, which is a Texas education law about teachers and administrators' contracts. Now, it's at the end of the school year, so the very slim silver lining in this is everybody's going to get their pink slip, if you will, in May, but they're still going to get a June, July, and August paycheck while they have time to go find another job. Okay, so think of it like severance pay, but it's not severance pay. All right, now it's important to know that we don't want to tell people they don't have a job next year. But one of the things about being an interim is you know that you're a temp employee. So you don't worry about job security, you don't worry about contract renewal, you don't worry about politics, you do what's right, not what's politically correct. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And that's why I won't stay here, is because some of y'all are going to hate my guts once I make these decisions. And I'll ride off in the sunset back to my honky-tonk town of Bandera and enjoy my wife and adult children and my grandchildren. And I hope that I will leave here with many good friends, as I did in Savannah. All right. We are also, this board meeting Monday, going to approve at least one loan, possibly two loans. We need about $3 million to get through August. And Zavala Bank right now has said they would loan us 1.4, so that's not even half. So that doesn't get us through the summer. So we're talking to Prime Bank. We might be talking to First State Bank of Uvalde. All right, but we got to pay that loan back. Y'all understand? It's not free money. We don't say, hey, can y'all loan us some money and we'll pay you back in 2 or 3 years from now. They don't do that. So we have to prove, so it's called tax anticipatory notes. This is the type of loan. So we're getting the loan based on the anticipation of the tax dollars that we will receive. Our new next year's dollars start flowing in August, September, October, okay? So the banks are going to depend that we pay them numero uno, all right? Which means we got to pay all our people, we got to pay all our bills, we got a football game, volleyball game, cheerleader, this, and all that other stuff that comes along with school. And how do we sustain that? Now, we're going to reorganize the 3 elementary schools. So, Benito Juarez has got a lot of mechanical problems with their air conditioning over there. A lot of the classrooms, the air conditioning is not working. And so I've been apprised that it's $5,000 to $9,000 per unit to replace. So we're hoping we can fix some of them. But we have a whole bunch of empty classrooms. When you look at the 3 campuses, they're all clustered together, right? They're all clustered together. So to me, the common sense is let's not worry about what school they're in. We move these kids out of these hot classrooms into cool classrooms that are vacant. Does that not make sense? That's just like common sense to me.
Yes.
We downsize from 3 principals to 1 principal. We downsize from 3 secretaries to 1 secretary. We downsize from 3 counselors to 1 counselor, 1 cafeteria. Do you understand the consolidation of personnel?
Yes.
It makes sense. Now, we're not closing schools. They'll just be here for one day. Hopefully things get better. Like they did in Sabinal. They got better in Sabinal, so I'm not going to steal all of your hope away from you, but it's going to take a lot of determination and a lot of you guys saying, all right, I don't like it. It affects my kid's program, but at least we got a school for my kid, and I want him to be a javelina, okay? If those things are important to you, you got to say, we got to cut some stuff. We're going to trim back my central office staff.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
We're not just going to cut at the campuses. We're not just going to cut the little people in the district. Okay? So we're working on that plan right now. We're not going to let that list out. So don't be asking because it's subject to change until it's tea time.
Well, how about paying salaries for some of the admin?
Well, what we're talking about is a lot of things with salaries. And what I will say is we're looking at freezing salaries, we're looking at cutting back on salaries, but we're not going to just pick on one segment of the employees, okay? We're not going to pick on the administrators, and we're not going to pick on the custodians, okay? We're going to do across the board cuts, okay? All right. We have to adopt for next year, so by September 1st, and I plan to be here through this, is we have to adopt not a balanced budget, certainly not a deficit budget, but we have to adopt a surplus budget. Why a surplus budget? Because we have all of these bills we got to pay. We got to pay back the INS that we shouldn't have used in the first place monies. We got to pay the bank back. So we have to adopt a smaller budget than our revenue, so we have surplus money to pay for all those things that we have to repay. Do we understand? Yes? Okay, surplus budget. So when you hear, my God, they have $4 million to put in fund balance, well, that's not really where it's going to go, but that's what we say. We put surplus money in the fund balance and in investments, but investments help us raise a little bit of money through interest rates. We're also going to dig into our county appraisal district. Now, I don't know anything for a fact, so I'm not going to speculate, but I'm going to tell you a story of what happened in Uvalde County. So your neighbors to the north, because that's where I've been the last 16 years. Because when Savannah was going through their tough times, I was scrapping for anything and everything I could find to keep our district afloat, and we did. And we ended up being on top of everything, and we ended up having money, and we ended up passing a bond, and we ended up doing all these great things. And there's where I bring hope to you guys, is I've done this once, I feel confident that I can at least fight the good fight. I don't look for fights, but I won't back away. So in Uvalde County, this is God's truth, there were people on the CAD board, the County Appraisal District Board, that were suppressing people, friends, families, property values, appraisal values, so they didn't pay as much in taxes. Real story. That chief appraiser got fired real fast after that got exposed. That was big news in the Uvalde Leader News. I don't know if that's happening here, but I have to look into it, at least to tell myself it's not happening here. And I hope that you appreciate I'm going to dig into that. And it might not be right away, it might not be next week, it might not be next month, but it's going to happen. Because 2/3 of all the money this district receives funnels through your appraisal district to us. 2/3 of all your money is y'all's tax dollars. Now, even Richard Grill doesn't like paying property taxes. None of y'all like paying property taxes. If you own a business, you pay even more property taxes. But what we do expect is the property taxes are applied fairly to all taxpayers. Will we not agree? Yes? Okay. So, I want to know why our tax collections aren't as high as I think they should be here. Why our delinquent tax collections aren't as high as I think they should be here. Now, it's a hunch. I have no evidence, so I'm not saying it's happening. And I want to be clear with that. But it was happening up north with you guys, kind of just north of y'all here. So, it wouldn't surprise me. All right, next item, and this is an important one. This is your long-term financial health. And this is not quite what I did in Savannah, but very similar to what I did in Savannah. Remember I told you the story, I was having a town hall meeting just like this back in 2015, and I told the community they were going to become the Dehennis Cowboys, okay? Remember that story a little while ago? Well, I told the community, if you don't want to become the Dehennis Cowboy, and everybody's purple and gold up there. Dehennis, Savannah, Canepa are all the same color. So I couldn't play on the color side of things to get people's attention. But what I did do is I got everybody's attention. I said, we got to raise our tax rate. We had an 82-cent M&O tax rate. We were the 8th lowest taxing school district in the state of Texas, and everybody was really proud of that. And when I started talking about we need to raise our tax rate to $1.04, that's 22 cents. They wanted to run me out of town. Can you imagine? But my bullet to shoot back at them was, don't want to consolidate? So we did. Over a 3-year period, we got our tax rate up 22 cents, and then we were free and clear, we were cruising and enjoying life again, doing the things that we wanted to do, all the extra things that we like to do, giving good pay raises to everybody. We did all of that stuff. Y'all are going to have to approve what's now called, this didn't exist back in those days in Savannah, it's called a VATER, a voter-approved tax ratification election. So in August, we'll call for a VATER. And it's just like a bond election, just like a school board election. It has to fall on now the word slips my mind. We'll always vote in November or May, okay? So we'll vote in November. All right, so we call the election, you have to call the election 90 days before, the actual election so the community has time to hear about it. So I'll probably be around in November trying to get y'all to vote for the Vader. Not Darth Vader, but try to be funny once in a while. All right, so my point is, for y'all to survive long term, we've got to pass this Vader. This will not get you out of the immediate problem because this money will not start flowing into your district until about this time next year. Okay? We don't have money to get there right now. Y'all understand? So we got to make a whole bunch of cuts. But maybe it's just for a year we have to make really bad cuts, make really hard decisions. And if this thing passes, and I'm not going to tell you it's going to fix everything, because you can't just raise your tax rate as high as you want to, like we could back in the day. As long as you had voter approval, you could raise it however much you wanted. Now there's a bunch of laws in Texas that keep us from raising the tax rate, even with community approval. So it's not going to be the identical scenario, but a very similar scenario that I walked the community through in Salmon.
Sir, that way,
Yes.
if the bond passes, we get all this money, who will be in charge of it? Because we know that we can't trust what we have.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Well, I hear what you're saying. Yes, there's going to have to be trust in the school, in the board, and the superintendent. Because by the time this money does start flowing in, I won't be here, okay?
One thing, we're stuck with, we're gonna have a conservative for 3 years, right?
2, at least, right, John? 2 years? Yeah.
So Dr. Ray, she's gonna be the one in charge of the money, right?
She won't be in charge, but she'll have some oversight on it, yes, sir. Okay? And she will make sure that the board does what they're supposed to do with the money, yes, sir. Okay? So the board's still in charge. The superintendent, me now, whoever in the future, will still be in charge. But she and Mr. Hines here will make sure that the school's doing what they're supposed to do and they're not straying off reservation and doing stuff that they shouldn't do, okay?
Mr. Grill,
Yes.
about how many cents are you expecting?
Sir, I haven't been here long enough to do that calculation. I hope to maybe have that answer by early summer, okay? Well before we call the election in August, okay? And again, if I'm still leading the charge, I'm going to be having town hall meetings explaining all this. I'll have a town hall meeting just because I have a town hall meeting every year back to school. And part of that is all the pomp and circumstance and everything else. But yes, I will talk to that and I will give you explicit information like I'm giving you tonight. But I don't have that today. And I don't even want to throw a number out, sir, because I don't want to be quoted because I'm being video recorded by everybody, okay? And he said it was only going to be 5 cents and it's 10 cents. I don't want to be that guy, okay? I don't even pretend to know what the number
The
is.
reason why I ask you is because we have as a state an exemption of $140,000.
Yes,
Most homes here in Crystal City, they are below the 100.
yes,
So that, and that means that if your house, if you own your house and your house is worth at $141,000, you're only paying taxes for $1,000.
and I appreciate you saying that, and that is a really good point, and let me elaborate on that. That's a good point. Okay, so recently, last November, Texans were allowed to vote on increasing the homestead exemption. And it was 100,000, now it's 140,000. Now I'm 65, I'll be 66 here this summer, and so I get another 60,000. My wife and I'll get another, so it's 200,000 for us. For those of y'all under 65, it's 140,000. So if your home or your property, only your homestead, we need to clarify that too. It's only your homestead. So if you got land somewhere else, you don't get to get that exemption on that. So your home, if it's valued at or below $140,000, none of this matters. Okay, it doesn't affect you. If you're 65, your appraisal values get frozen also. Okay, plus now you get another 60,000, so that's 200,000 on your home. Now my wife and I have 22 acres that's unimproved, so we pay out the wazoo on that because we don't get to exempt any of that, and none of that exemption stuff exists on that. So if you have commercial property, that's a different conversation also. If you're a business owner, that's a different conversation. The homeowners, and that's a good point. The median house in Sabinal is $87,000. So practically everybody in Sabinal, a tax increase is not affecting them. Okay, that was a good point. I appreciate you asking that question. Okay, so I have all these little quirky things. A vision without a plan is merely a dream. I opened up my conversation with the board the night they interviewed me. I said, a vision without a plan is merely a dream. Think about what that means. A vision without a plan is merely a dream. How many times have you listened to people stand before you? It can be the president, it can be the governor, it can be the superintendent, it can be somebody else, and they're talking about a mission statement, a vision statement, and they're talking about we're going to be great again. But then how does things turn out? And you're wondering, well, what's the plan? How are we going to make things great again? Okay, so I try to be different in my approach. I try to lay out the game plan so people understand where I'm moving us to. You'll be empowered with knowledge. You won't like it. Some of y'all won't like it. Some of y'all are going to really dislike me for what I'm going to say. But we got to do what we got to do to save the district. So reducing departmental budgets 50% is just pennies in the budget. It's almost meaningless. It looks significant, and our teachers go, oh my God, how are we going to do what we got to do? And our principals and our coaches and everybody else are going to say, what are we going to do with half the money? 90% of our budget, folks, listen to this, this is important. 90% of the entire budget is in payroll and benefits here. That leaves 10% of the entire budget to pay for the lights, the air conditioning, the fuel in the buses, to clean the floors, to cook the food. Oh, and to teach the kids, 10% for everything else. We are so grossly overstaffed here. We have become the employment agency of this community. And I'm sorry, that's not what the school exists for. So, what I've told the principals and directors and the board is we're cutting all travel. Now, there's always exceptions. There's going to be some exceptions, and so don't get too wrapped up with the minuteness of this. But what I'm saying is we got to cut. So, employees, their professional dues and memberships, no more. They don't get to go to conferences, no more. We're going to give kids snack lunches, a sandwich and an apple and a juice drink instead of $12 every game to go out of town on. Yeah. Do y'all understand? Yeah. So we're going to give them food, and they're going to throw it away because that's what they did in Sabinal. They all chunked in the trash can. But let's be real. After games, do kids ride the bus home? No, they ride home with moms and dads or family members, right? Got to check them out. Got to send them out, right? For $12, $12, $12, $12, $12, $12. We got to start saying no. Coaches don't get $12. Nobody gets $12. Okay? No overnight travel. Maybe if we're in some kind of a playoff scenario, we got to go the night before. That'll happen. Okay? We're not going to deny the kids and their families and the community the experience of going into a deep playoff run. I have been known to cancel school, a whole day of school, just because we're in the playoffs, because we're playing 5 hours away somewhere. And I'm just going to tell you a quick story. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for athletics. I was on a state championship football team in Churchill High School in 1976, Churchill Chargers. I was on staff in 91 for the Burnett Bulldogs state runner-ups that we got to the state championship and lost. My son was on the squad 2002 Bandera state champions. So I've been in and around 3 state champion football teams in my lifetime. I have a passion. I expect all my little grandsons, I have 6 of them. They all play Little League, they all play soccer. My 16-year-old's way bigger than me. He's a brute. I'm really looking forward to seeing him play this next fall. So I get it. I don't want that to happen. And that's the thing that people remember most as parents and kids when you start looking back. I remember the day we went into the playoffs. I remember my kids on that team or whatever. So I'm not looking at wanting to do away with everything, but we've got to make some tough decisions. And so I'm down here at the bottom, reduce and cut non-district extracurricular. So I'm going to pick on volleyball, basketball, baseball, softball. We're just not going to go to every darn tournament there is. Okay, they're going to play their non-district games on their schedule, and they're going to play their district games in schedule. But every tournament that they go to, oh, but Mr. Grill, we go to these tournaments so our kids can be better when we get to district play. I get that. But what do we want? We're still going to let them play. They're still going to have a season. They're still going to play their schedule. Now, if we host a tournament, it happens. If it's next door in Carrizo or it's next door in Uvalde, and yeah, we'll go to those tournaments because they're close. It's paying bus drivers and everybody else to sit there on the clock, on the time clock, getting paid while we're sitting hours on end all day long for a tournament. Do y'all understand? There's money there.
Yeah.
And we've got umpteen coaches that got to go because that's what we do here.
Yeah.
And we don't need all umpteen coaches to go to everything here. Okay, y'all got a lot of darn coaches.
Yes.
Y'all got a lot of darn coaches. Just saying. And we pay really well here. I mean, exceptionally well. Y'all have non-administrator types here that are making more than principals and superintendents make. You have secretaries that are making more than teachers make. You've got everybody here making lots of good money. No wonder we're broke. All right? So those gravy train days are kind of winding down for a while, at least, if not completely.
I have a question.
Yep.
I know you stated that our budget right now, like for payroll and benefits, is at 90%. With our funded, the funds that we do get, what should be our percentage for payroll and benefits for our staff?
Outstanding question. I should have said that. Thank you for asking. It should be around 70 to 75%.
Okay, I know you said that there was gonna be some exceptions for the student travel tax. Does that also apply for when they go to special Olympics every year they go past?
So what?
The special Olympics that go to special Olympics, is that gonna be covered? Is that
You know,
gonna
the word no's got to come out of my mouth, but I'm not going to say tonight, right here, no. We're doing an analysis of what we can afford because we still have money in the budget, even though we owe all this money everywhere. So what I've done is as of April 13th, which was last Monday, I've shut all the budgets off, except with what are the normal end of the year activities. Okay, so whatever is normal. Now, field trips, I said, we're not doing field trips unless a booster club or somebody wants to donate or the parents want to pay. But going to the Whitting Museum just to go to Whitting Museum for third grade field trip is not gonna happen. All right, and I'm just using that as an example. I'm not gonna say yes or no to your question. I'm not at that point where I can say that. Morally, I don't wanna say no. But financially, I feel like I have to say yes. But I can't look you in the eye and say we've gotten that far, but I'm gonna have to say no to stuff. Now, I'm talking more figuratively about next year, the big picture. That was a great question. I appreciate you asking me that question about our budget should be around 75%. That leaves you 25 to 30% of your budget is to pay for instruction and day-to-day activities and all the lights and air conditioning. We don't have money to fix air conditioners here. It's getting hot, right? Okay, so something's got to go. All right, so I'm kind of winding down here. Wish I had a bottle of water. Anyway, a lot. This is a lot. And what I'm going to tell you is y'all are going to have questions and you're going to email me, or you're going to want to email me, or you're going to want to come see me. And I'm just asking you to please be patient with me. I will make time to talk or email or phone call, but give me a couple more weeks, okay? I'm just in day 11 and I'm trying to figure out questions like that, okay? And I can't, all I've done is been behind closed doors talking to people. I've talked with each principal, I've talked with each director, I've talked with each board member. And this Thursday, I'm going to be in San Antonio. The commissioner is presenting some new, not funds, no money, but he's going to be showing us new ways to get money into our schools. So I'm going to go to that. So I won't be here on Friday. Thank you so very much. And Friday, you know, folks, it stinks getting old. I've got herniated discs in my back, so I'm going to go see my doctor about my MRI on Friday. So I won't even be here. So what I'm saying is I'm going to get into a time crunch. So I don't want you to email me and say, well, he's just like the rest of them. He doesn't reply. I will get better at that. You know, I want to go see him, but Anna won't let me see him because he said he's too busy. Because that's the answer you're going to get if you just drop by. It's not, hang with me, sir, I'll get to you. What I'm trying to say is I have always prided myself about being accessible to parents in the community. But give me 3 or 4 weeks to really get on top of everything, because I got to get all this action stuff going, okay? And I can't do that if I'm landlocked to my computer answering emails and board meetings and all the other things that I have to do. And that's just a fact. But at least I'm being honest with you that I need a little bit of time for you to be able to access me. But if nothing else, I'm standing here tonight, and ask yourself how many other people have done this for you in the past, okay? So I will be that person for you eventually. Just give me a little more time. Okay, I'll open the floor to some questions. If they're real pointed questions, I'm going to defer to later. If I don't know, folks, I'm just an honest guy. If I don't know, I'm going to tell you I don't know. And either I'll get back to you or I'll post something later. I'm wet on myself there, sorry.
Or how long are you going to be here?
Sir?
Up to the,
Pardon me?
how long are you going to be here?
Well, I don't think I or the board have talked about an expiration date. I would foresay Christmas, if I'm going to guess. And the question is, how long am I going to be here? And this is how I'm slicing up the pie. It's 3 slices. Right now, I've got to figure out what's wrong and develop a plan to fix it. Number 2, I've got to develop next year's budget for next year. So that's summer, okay? And then number 3, I've told the board if they want me, I'll help them do the search to find the next person. So that's fall, okay? So 3 slices of pie. Now, summer, fall, okay? Sir, you had a question earlier.
Yes, sir. You know the budget that the vet need, spring break is not for the men. Some people take it freely.
It doesn't cost us anything. We're funded on minutes of school. So as long as we have, I forget how many minutes are in the school year now. I've been out of the picture. Anyway, we're funded on, just think of it as days. Back in the old days, it was 180 days of school, so we get funded for 180 days. So if we take days off here, there, and there, you know, there's a lot of schools that have Fridays off. How do they do it? They staff so many, it's minutes now, but let's just call it days for lack of a better word. They have 180 days of school. And so having those days off doesn't cost us anything. And typically speaking, that's when the custodians and maintenance get in and fix things. You know, they'll hit the floors during Christmas break, and they'll fix things that would normally interrupt the teacher's classroom, whatever. So those usually don't. There's somebody over here that's had their hand up. Yes, ma'am.
If TA were to take over, could we continue as the Javelinas?
So the question is if TEA takes over, so in my interpretation, ma'am, of taking over is they appoint a board of managers.
Yes.
Okay. So nothing changes. They're going to be the board. But the problems don't go away. And so if the finances can't be figured out and fixed, yeah.
Well, we would have more confidence in trying to pass the tax debater thing.
Yeah, and more confidence, I get it. I will tell you that I've met with each of the school board members, and everybody has their personalities. I have a personality. So, you know, those are decisions y'all got to make. I'm going to tell you that I've met with all of them. They all understand the gravity. They admit, okay, maybe we should have done something different. I thought we were doing the right thing, and now, hindsight, it was the wrong thing. So I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but that's y'all's decision, not mine.
The reason I say is because we had Mr. Solomon, right?
Yes.
Statement, we had Strano Rosa, we had Mr. Kim, we had 4 audits, and we still had a board member in your last board meeting say that he didn't know. And another board member in social media saying that we're gonna be fine. So, I mean, the confidence isn't there in some of them.
Well, that's why they're elected officials, ma'am. So y'all get to make that decision, okay? I'm going to stand here and just say that I'm not going to choose sides here, but I understand what you're saying, and that's why they're elected officials, and that's why y'all get to make that decision in the end, okay? But also know that you have board members that are truly concerned, and they want things done differently now. Way in the back, ma'am.
In those days, back 20, 30 years ago, we were expected, the administration, to go out after foundation money, grants money, apply, go forward. It was expected. That's how many teacher aides got to get their degrees. Teachers got to get their certificate. I'm going, sir, I'm going to stop right there. Would there be a consideration to giving foundation writing, grants writing, to different agencies to get as much money that's out there for schools?
And ma'am, I've been around a long time too. I can say that grant monies aren't like they used to be. okay? Well, but not to argue the point, they're not the kind of monies that we used to see back in those days. They're more for programs. They have what's called a grow your own grant, but that's not really something that the school applies for. It's for at-will employees who want to go back to school. And what the grant does is it just says that there's no money for the employee. It just says that the school district will get funded if you come back to teach in the school. And the premise behind the Grow Your Own grant is about finding homegrown people, because there's such a teacher turnover across the state. What's very unique here in Crystal, at least from what little bit I've learned, is the vast majority of the teachers and aides and everybody are from here. So that Grow Your Own grant wouldn't really apply here, is my point. Now in Savannah, we had a lot of mobility. Teachers, even administrators, even myself commuted. And so there was turnover because of that. And so the commissioner created this Grow Your Own grant so you could get people who lived very close or were from the community to go back to school and then come back to work. And there was some incentives built into that grant, but that's not going to help fund our schools. Yes, sir.
Out of the $1.something billion that was taken from IRS, all of our debt actually was paid, or we still owe those funds?
We owe it all still. And it's millions of dollars we owe. Yes.
Since you said attendance is where the money comes from the attendance, right? There's 180 calendar days. We just need to, maybe we can work together as communities. It's on the attendance to get as much money as we can from the attendance.
Sure.
You know, the teen schools that are not, since you said you were going to the teen schools and that some of the special populations were not identified correctly.
Correct.
So you can recover that money if you know, keep forward, or moving forward, like, hold them correctly so that you can get the proper.
Right.
From them.
So that comes with training. So
There's some options for us to have some.
So we submit PEEMs throughout the year, but there's two big submissions. One's in the end of October, we call that snapshot, and then we have another in June. And so that's where they measure where we were, what was our enrollment then, where is our enrollment at the end of the year. And so if they overpay us, so hopefully your enrollment goes up, or at least this flat line. Now, attendance, it's a phenomenon across our state, and it's a phenomenon across our nation that attendance is poor since COVID. Parents just, every time there's a sniffle, sneeze, or something going around, measles, whatever, parents keep the kids at home because they're scared of it. And, you know, that's a perplexing problem across the state. Now, and it's generally not elementary kids' fault for lack of attendance. That's mamas and daddies not getting up and getting them ready to school and getting them there. Secondary, it's a different conversation. And I've got a 16-year-old grandson. I love him dearly. But he likes to play hooky as much as any kid I've ever seen. And I ride my daughter's backside pretty regular, like, why is he not at school? Why is he not at school? Why is he not at school? Because, my leg hurts. Oh, my foot, my big toe, whatever. Get to school, okay? And my daughter, oh, daddy, you know, look, get his butt to school. All right, so secondary kids, moms and dads need to go to work, and they think their kid's going to school, and they're not. That happens, okay? Now, my big question here is we have truancy officers, and why aren't we doing a better job getting kids in the classroom? Now, what I did in Savannah was my principals, because I didn't have all these extra people. So I had two principals for the whole school district. They had to go, I made them go pound on kids' doors, parents' doors. Hey, where's your kid? He's not at school today. He's been gone for 3 days. What's going on? They're back there ducking around the corner and stuff like that.
They used to do it where, like, if the families were
receiving human services or whatever, and they kids were going to school, and so they don't meet the attendance volume, you can contact the housing authority, it would help us, get the kids to school. But I guess a committee working together to get the kids to school, I guess that we hold each other accountable for the attendance and the attendance.
That would be a great thing to have happen.
Because we can help each other and make sure our kids get to school.
Because if we can get that 91% up to 96%, that's $600 a day per kid, every day. And that adds up after a while, okay? And that's money that we should be getting. But the state makes the assumption that you're getting 100% attendance until the end of the year. And so then you get overpaid, and then you gotta pay it back, but it's in the next school budget, and you've already spent the money. So it's like, all right, I spent that $20, now I gotta get that $20 back, but I don't have that $20 anymore. So yeah, we've gotta get kids to school. We've gotta do moms and dads, aunts, uncles, grandparents, get your kids to school. In the back, yes ma'am. Yes.
So, I know you've been talking about profitability, at this point, what is the profitability of consolidation? What is, I mean, because I just want to know percent. We're at, I know you said 50-50 for something, I don't know what that was for, but my daughter's a sophomore year, you're talking about.
Yeah.
So I have these 2 years to think of really learn what we're gonna do, what's my next move.
Well, the first thing I'll tell you is don't pull your kids out just because of this doom and gloom. Until it happens, don't do anything, because all you're going to do is really just dump this in the toilet faster. Y'all need to believe in your school. I can see why you've lost faith in your school. I respect why. I would feel the same way if I'm in your shoes. But the thing is if y'all give up and go ahead and pull them and take them to La Pryor or Carrizo or wherever, all you're doing is sticking a knife in the school. And we're just going to bleed that much faster, okay? We're in triage. If you understand triage, there's going to be some people you come up to and they're bleeding. You're just going to say, God bless you, and you move on to the next person you can save. We're in triage. There's going to be programs. There's going to be things that we have to cut. And you're going to hear about it, and you're not going to like it, but I'm not releasing the list yet because we're still massaging numbers, and I don't want to get people all fired up on something that might not be exactly what I know today. I'm only in day 11 here, so respect that what I'm telling you is what I do know, and I'm not willing to tell you what I don't know until I do know. Now, we're going to make this public, and my best and very best advice is to do one of two things. Come to board meetings, or watch it on YouTube, okay? Y'all have something a lot of schools, especially this size, don't have. Y'all have a video stream, so you can stay informed. We can't do much here without going through a board meeting. So there's your conduit of information. We're going to have at least one board meeting next week, possibly another one the following week, and definitely another one the next week. We're going to get worn out on board meetings here, but we're calling these meetings because we got things we got to do right now. We can't wait until the regular board meeting. But we're going to video stream those. We have to post the agendas. So go to the district website. We have to post it 3 business days before the actual day. So our meeting's on Monday, so we had to post it by this evening. All right? So you don't get to count Saturday and Sunday because they're not business days. So you have a lot of time, and all y'all do social media, right? So all y'all have to do is circulate it around. Hey, they're going to be talking about X, and everybody knows. All I ask is please keep it civil. We school people get blasphemed in social media, and anything that gets said, it's got to be true because it was in Facebook, right? And people say really ugly things about teachers, they say really ugly things about principals, and they say a whole lot of ugly things about us superintendents. And half of it is usually not true. And the other half is partially true. But if you just go to our website, we have to post the agenda. And then you can say, oh, they're going to talk about financial exigency. I want to know what they're going to talk about. And you either come to the board meeting or you watch it on stream. Then you can call your board member and say, hey, what's going on in the green shirt?
First and foremost, I want to thank you for being here and for being transparent, something you didn't get for a very long time. But I just have a question. So when you're going to revisit everything, does this mean you're going to revisit also classroom teachers? And my point is, so this past school year, my daughter, unfortunately, we became a wildcat. So the issue that I was having is your core subject teachers are coaching multiple sports where they're gone 2 days out of the week, sometimes more for tournaments, and the ones that suffer are the students. Why? Because the teacher's not there. And when the teacher was there, the teacher was focused on sports, not classroom material or teaching. So at one point, I would love to come back, but if that is going to be revisited, because
I can answer that right now. All right. So I do have a meeting with Coach Battles in the morning. And I have a meeting with Ms. Houston tomorrow as well. And on different topics, but along these lines, this is what I'm going to be changing for next year. All athletic periods are going to be the last periods of the day, because our teachers are coaches and our coaches are teachers and our students are athletes and our athletes are students. And when they have athletics first period or fourth period, and then they miss the afternoon classes, the teachers who are coaches leave, and all the students that aren't in athletics or in that particular athletics have the sub. And also, the kids are missing academics when they leave to the game. So by moving athletics to the end of the period, what do they miss? Athletic period. They don't miss an academic period. The teachers who are coaches don't miss their academic teaching. The kids who are students that are athletes that are missing athletics and not their class. So I'm 100% on top of that idea. And that's already a decision. We did that in Savannah, Mike. And I will tell you, we did it in Savannah and we went 0-10. And then we went 1-9. And then we went 7-3. Then 0-10 and 0-10. And I got blamed by a lot of people. Well, you did that to us, Grill, because you moved athletics to the end of the day. And folks, I don't know what's more important at the end of the day is teaching and learning. That's what we exist for. And if the coaches miss athletic period, they still have after school athletics. And yes, there's rules of how many hours you can have athletics and all that other stuff. But we've got conservators assigned to us because of academic poor performance. It's not at the secondary level, but it could easily be that way. And I'm committed to making that change.
So my question before that one, you know, the reason why you have children that are in sports for next year, and we are already expected to pay for their uniforms and whatever expenses that are coming, and it's not cheap. So our question is, well, why not maturity? These other girls are in started, and that's my concern. And I'm all for cutting, so we can continue moving forward, but I need to know where we stand, because then the expense that we're doing now is going to be reimbursed if we do August.
Mama, you're not going to like my answer. All right, but I'm going to be honest with you, okay? We didn't pay for cheer outfits in Savannah because they're custom tailored to the little girls' bodies. Football players, volleyball girls, their jerseys are general sizes that they can pass on from others. Right, I understand, and that's what we did in Savannah, and that's what I propose we're going to do here. Now, all right, I'm going to slide this on out there. I was going to save this for another day, but I'll slide it on out there because I've said it to the faculty, and I've said it to the board. We're going to keep varsity play. We're not going to touch anything that's varsity, but we might look at having parents help us with expenses on JV, freshman, middle school sports, and other extracurricular programs, because we got to cut somewhere. And our biggest expenditure is function 11, which is instruction, but that's not the things that we teach in the classroom. That's all the teachers and instructional aides that are in function 11. The second biggest expenditure in our budget is function 36, which is extracurricular. So my proposal, and what I have said, and I'm going to get pushback on this, and I expect this, and I hope that you'll respect, at least I'm honest to say it, is that what are we going to cut? Curricular or extracurricular? Or what are we going to trim back? Curricular or extracurricular? I say extracurricular.
Yes.
Okay? Now, are we going to do away with extracurricular? No. But I'll use my daughter for example. She was a stellar volleyballer. Anyhow, how those girls get to be stellar volleyballers is they don't play just 2.5 months of volleyball a year. They play volleyball year round. And it's called Club League. And we paid for the coach, we paid for all the tournament fees, we had to buy the uniforms, we had to transport them, we had to feed them. And so we look at sub-varsity play as club league. Just like you do with Little League now, or soccer, if y'all have soccer here, whatever. You know, Little League, y'all pay for your kids' expenses. Now, are we going to do away with sports? Are we going to do away with extracurricular? No. And I'm not even going to say today, right now, this moment, we're going to do that club idea, but it is on my talking point, okay? Now, I don't want to go too far in the weeds because I might say, all right, we figured out a different way to fix this financial problem. But right now, I have to be open, and y'all have to be open to the realities of we've got to cut something, and we can't just cut a little bit here and a little bit there and it all go away. We've got to cut millions, plural, out. Now, as far as cutting teachers, I think this is an important comment to make. I don't really see any teachers losing a job here. Zero. Okay? That's our core mission, is to teach. So we have to have teachers. Now, we have teachers that are not certified. We have teachers that are on alternative certification that aren't certified yet. They might be on the chopping block. We're going to look at all these coaching stipends that we pay. $15,000, $19,000 worth of stipends that are paid here. Y'all pay really well. Really, really well. I'm telling you, your people are spoiled here. And so we got to go on a diet, okay? Now, this is no lie, no lie. When I retired, I was 308 pounds. I'm 227 pounds today. That's stress off my back, and it's also called diabetes. All right, so one of the reasons I retired. Now, my point is, I've lost a lot of weight. It wasn't fun, it wasn't easy, but we got to lose a lot of weight here. But it's called money weight. All right, try to wrap things up. We've been here a long time. In the back, yes. In the gray, yes, ma'am. Can you speak up?
She wants to know how the cuts affect the band program.
How does it affect the band program?
The cuts,
You know,
or if it would.
Or is it, just so that parents can prepare, like if we have a budget for how.
well, all right. Let's just put it this way. I don't see cutting band just like I don't see cutting football. Okay? But we're going to cut back. Okay? So, going to all y'all's marching contests, that's a big thing. And I think y'all need to go to those marching contests. But let's look at how can we get it done, maybe with the Booster Club, and all right, I don't want to get into the Booster Club thing tonight, okay? I've already heard. And I've got a bad back and I've been standing up here for 2 hours and I'm tired, okay? So can we just hang on to the Booster Club conversation for another day? I've already heard, I promise you. That's why I'm meeting with Ms. Houston and the band director in the morning, try to fix a few things for you guys. All right, so back to the question. Maybe your athletic boosters and your band boosters help pay for some of the stuff, okay?
We were very, we paid for all competition fees this year. And we were very we never needed full cost. We tried to help carry the program throughout the year.
And that's fantastic, and that's what I would hope y'all would do in the future. And so, thank you, Band Boosters, for doing that. And that's what y'all need to be an example to the other programs. Okay? All right. 2 more questions. Yes, ma'am.
Pre-K?
I wouldn't say no, definitely not. Look, I was an elementary principal for 9 years, and I led Marble Falls Elementary School to a recognized, I led Hill Country Elementary and Bandera to 3 straight exemplary ratings. And one of the secrets isn't what you get on those test scores. It's what you do in early childhood that matters. So pre-K is really important. All right, so no cuts to pre-K. You can take that to the bank. Hopefully they'll give us a loan. All right, one more question. I'll give one more question. No band booster questions though.
I do want to ask something. Can you give us a realistic, let's say people just said, you know what, they want to see their kids play sub-varsity sports and whatnot, and they don't want to deal with the pay-to-play or however the case may be, and they do abandon. Can you give us a realistic scenario of what would happen if people do start leaving, and how it would affect us after that happens and after our attendance starts reporting and whatnot?
Well, I don't have a crystal ball to look into and say, but if people are going to leave over athletics, then, the school district dies. The school district dies when people pull kids out. Now, do we want to do that? I already told you, I'm a product of athletics, okay? You won't find a bigger jock fan than me. And I was in band, by the way. I played baritone sax, okay? I did. Only because I was a big guy. They gave me the big sax, okay? Now, my point is, folks, we can't change all this mess. We can't change all this. And if we don't say no to spending, if we don't say we can't do this anymore, we're going to close. And so if we got to play this game as a team, as a community, and say our school is important to us. It's our identity. This is y'all's identity, okay? I've worked for Bulldogs and Mustangs all my career. And then I got to the Yellow Jackets, and I thought, all right, there's a new one. And my son went to Texas A&M Kingsville, so I got a Javelina hat already, all right? So what I'm trying to say is we don't want to do the pay for play. I can tell you I don't want to do it. You have board members who don't want to do it. But where do we start saying, well, we're going to cut in the classroom or we're going to cut in the extracurricular? That's my point. I don't want you to be despondent, and I don't want you to pull your kids out. That's not my point. But the word no should have come out of people's mouths a long time ago, and it didn't. And now it is, and the school's only going to suffer more for those consequences.
And I wanted you to say that because I feel like if they don't understand the gravity of it, of what will happen, I think that a lot of people just find it easier just to leave. I don't want to have to take my kids, it's more of a hassle for me than
Sure.
me staying here.
So,
My house is here, my job is here.
so I know Miss Pearson next door over
Crazy.
Carrizo. She and I knew each other before this, before I came here, and I was at a meeting last week at Region 20, and she said, I hear you're already using us. And I said, yeah, that's what good superintendents do. And I want you to say that you're not accepting anybody from Crystal without a tuition cost, so that way they'll stay. So Rose and I already had this conversation, and she knows I'm using them as an example, a scapegoat, whatever. My point is, y'all need to help sell this to the rest of the community too. All right, if you hear what I'm saying and you agree with what you're hearing me say and you trust what I'm saying and what I'm showing you, then y'all do your part in promoting, all right, we got to do this, y'all. Let's band together, let's support the mission, and let's pray and hope that the Vader gives us the long-term financial health, and we can maybe in 2 years or 3 years roll some of this back in. Yes. The Vader is where we would raise y'all's M&O tax rate. It would be like the bond election y'all had a few years ago. Okay, but this, instead of INS, your interest in sinking to build buildings, auditoriums. That's a horrible thing back there, y'all. Yeah. No booster club, all right. I'll give you one more question.
Because I have an 8-year-old autistic son, and I wanted to know, like, are any of these cuts in the effective special education program?
No, absolutely not. No.
So where we say how the elementary schools are gonna discuss that at the next school board meeting?
Restructuring?
We mentioned like reorganizing the elementary schools,
Well, I mean, I said it, so yeah, you can say it.
but it's gonna be at the next, like we all gotta mention more what's gonna happen and what exactly that means.
Probably not. We're gonna talk about the financial exigency plan, which is cutting people.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's called reduction in force, RIF. That's what we're gonna be talking about. Yes. I don't see it affecting dual credit, no. Now, I did meet with the junior college dean yesterday, Dr. G. He's got a big old long name, I can't pronounce it, but anyway, we might have a blend of courses offered through Soros also. So what I'm driving at, the bargain I'm playing with these two schools, Southwest Texas and Soros, is who will let us have dual credit classes for free? Okay? Because right now we're paying tuition for the kids. Okay? Now, but we're not looking at doing away with dual credit because we have to pay. What I'm trying to do is the college, the university, Soros is saying, hey, we can provide you courses free. But that's a different subject. I'll answer that in a second. Let me finish on the dual credit part. So the dean from the junior college comes to see me yesterday, and it's a true story. He said, well, you know, Mr. Bill, we have this FAST. I said, well, what's that? I don't know what that is. He said, well, you know, any child that comes from an economic disadvantaged home, we'll waive the tuition. Well, why aren't you already doing that? Why do we have to have this conversation, okay? So I've already levered that conversation yesterday. So we're going to keep the dual credits. That's a good thing for kids. And it also helps with our high school and our district accountability rating because there's what's called a CCMR component. And so we have to, those dual credit classes also serve, and that's the carrot the state dangles in front of the school to make sure that we offer dual credit. Okay, is that helps us with our accountability rating. So I've already levered that conversation with the college. Now, What we're also discussing with the college is some adult night classes. So what they made a proposal to me about yesterday was about having I call it construction technology, but it's for adults who want to get a level 1 certification in construction technology. So what the college does is they pay us a rental fee for using our shop at the high school. They provide the teacher, they pay for everything, and it's a little money. It's not much, but it's some money coming our way. And you know, even if it's $1,500 a month, that's better than nothing, right? We got to get 4 million, so $1,500 a month isn't going to get us anywhere close to 4 million. But we're going to offer that. I don't see the board saying no to that. But we are looking critically, and you know, the dean came to see me, and he said, "Yeah, we can do this grant thing and help y'all out." And I'm just thinking, well, why didn't y'all already do this? Why do we have to ask a question? All right, so the question is, are we going to keep welding and cosmetology? Right now, I don't see a scenario of cutting any of that. Now, what I can't say with absolute assurity to you is, if there's only 2 or 3 girls in the cosmetology program, it might. All right, but if we got 10, 15 girls, and I'm being very gender biased, aren't I, with saying girls, right? There's guys in cosmetology, so I apologize. My point is as long as we have enough students to justify the course, we're gonna keep the course. We're about teaching kids. That's what we exist for. So that's the last thing I want to cut. So I don't see teachers losing their jobs. I don't see, you know, math, science, social studies, English. I'm a career tech ed teacher. I value career tech ed. I don't see those programs going away. Fine arts, by the way, is a required curriculum to graduate. You have to have 2 credits in fine arts, so band's of fine arts, so I don't see band going away. All right.
Sir, I want to say thank you that in the 11 days you've been here, you've done a lot.
I appreciate it. All right, can we call in tonight? Yes. All right, thank you. I appreciate your support, your kind words and support.